Hey guys, this is Helana with Glass Factory. I'm here with Rumpus. Hey, how are you
How's it
doing?
going? Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, it's great to have you. It's nice to meet you.
You too.
Yeah. I want to jump right in with our first question actually. What's one lesser known artist or genre you're obsessed with right now that people wouldn't expect from you?
Definitely, like in my sets, I play a lot of bass music. Or sorry, not a lot. I don't play a lot, but I play bass music and drum and bass. I like to mix that in, and that's not something that you're gonna hear if you go on my Spotify. Like I'm not making drum and bass songs of my own, but I really do appreciate those genres as well, and I like mixing it up and switching it up in the set and switching up the vibe for a bit. So, a couple artists, the stuff that I've been really digging their things lately is Dennett, has some cool stuff, and also YDG,
Okay.
some of that. But like, yeah, I'll kind of play all over, mixing it up with different genres. But generally, I stick to like house. But
That's really cool. Yeah, I am generally newer to the dance music scene, so I'm always looking for some artists to just dive into. But yeah, I really like drum and bass, so can't go
yeah,
wrong there. Yeah, cool. Well, I don't know if I ever see you live. That'd be really cool to check out your set and see what you bring in.
depends. It depends where I'm playing, what the vibe is as well. But definitely, bass and drum and bass is like really big in um, in the Western Canadian scene, which is
Hmm.
where I'm based out of, and so yeah, a lot of bass fans out here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I am from the Pacific Northwest myself, so I totally know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. So similarly though, who inspired you as a musician when and like what were the songs that you were learning how to play?
I mean, I started playing drums when I was 12 years old, and at that time I was into Nirvana and
Mm,
Smashing Pumpkins and Nine Inch Nails and stuff like that. But the my favorite band of all time is Rage Against the Machine,
awesome.
and Rage was what really got me musically, like on playing my instrument. That was the first stuff I learned was Rage Against the Machine
Hmm.
tracks, and then I met a friend in like grade 9 or whatever, and we would do Rage Against the Machine covers. And
Oh,
he
that's so
played the
cool.
guitar, and I played the drums, and that's kind of how like I entered into actually playing music.
Yeah, I know Rage Against the Machine isn't really like doing live music right now, but have you seen any of them live or Tom Morello live?
No, unfortunately, I had tickets to their last tour, and then
Oh,
it got canceled, and then it got rescheduled, and then it got canceled again. And
oh
so,
man.
unfortunately, I never got to see them live in my life. But and I mean, when I was into it, I was just a kid, so like the chance of me being able to go to, like, my parents weren't gonna, send me off to a concert in New York or something
Right.
when I was like 12 years old. But I'm hoping that they go back on the road and start touring again, and I get the opportunity to.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Tom Morello at the state capitol once, and he was just did this cool pop up protest thing, and it was so unique and special, and I'm gonna hold that forever in my heart. It was like really,
Yeah,
really cool time.
yeah, that's a definitely a bucket list thing for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So if you ever get a chance to like go and do that, I highly recommend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Rage Against the Machine, Nine Inch Nails. Yeah, you're speaking to a metalhead here, so I love metal music.
Nine Inch Nails is touring right now, so
Yeah, they are. I have yet to see them yet. They're just like rarely around where I'm at, you know?
yeah,
So,
a
yeah.
chance to Vancouver
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah. Well, kind of going similar into a similar direction with your foundations. You are a drummer, but as a drummer who transitioned from punk to house, what instincts from your punk days still show up in your approach to rhythm and crowd interaction?
You definitely my live show is influenced by the punk rock days and being in a band because I played
Mm-hmm.
in like, punk rock bands through high school and for a few years after. And um, when I'm on stage, I don't think of myself as a DJ. I often don't tell people either I'm a DJ. I
Mm-hmm.
just tell them I'm a musician because I like that's how I feel is, DJing is a part of what I do, but really, like my heart and soul is in the drumming aspect and actually playing my instrument. And I love producing music too. I love performing, and I love DJing, like just any aspect to kind of that involves musicianship excites me. And I like to take that to the stage. And even though I'm up there by myself, like I still feel sometimes like I'm up there with my bandmates, and we're goofing around, we're having fun. And especially coming from a punk rock background, it can be quite chaotic on stage. And I like to try and bring a little bit of that chaos to some degree. So like moving back and forth between my drums and my decks and running around, and I'll get on the mic. I like inviting people up on stage. People can come up and dance. And I sort of like thrive in the chaos of that, because it reminds me of the punk rock scene a little bit. And, some people in the DJ scene, they think, you need to go up. It's just play your music. Don't talk on the mic. Don't do anything. Let the music do the talking. And I totally respect that for if that's the vibe you're going for. But for me, I want people to feel like they're at a bit of a live show. I don't necessarily think of it always as, hey, I'm up here, everyone stop and look at me. It's sort of like I feel like we're kind of in it together, and I'm in it with the crowd. And that's why it's fun sometimes to have people from the crowd come up on stage, or, get involved. Or sometimes I'll even get off stage and I'll go out into the crowd, maybe like at my last song, and I'll just go and like dance with them. And I don't know. I think it kind of also like builds community with the fans and all that, and trying to break down like the barriers also between like I'm the artist and you're the fan. I'm here and you're there, and just bringing people together and making people have a good time and have fun. That's like my goal.
Yeah, first off, I'm definitely gonna have to catch one of your live sets. That sounds like so much fun. Second off, doing that, bridging that gap between artist and fan, whenever musicians do that, I just really admire that, and just kind of like meet them on a level playing field, if that makes sense. So I think it's so cool that you do that. I absolutely have to catch you live, basically. You sold me.
Maybe this summer.
Yeah, maybe this summer. Yeah, that'd be really fun. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love a little bit of chaos in a live set. So
that's actually my name, Rumpus. The definition of it is a commotion or a noisy disturbance. So that was part of the reason behind the name in the first place, was like I felt it kind of encompassed my live show. And moving back and forth between instruments, and drums are just loud and they're a bit of a commotion, and some people consider them like a disturbance and noisy.
Yeah, I don't know, this is a saying that I grew up hearing: if it's not loud, it's not on. And I kind of feel that way about like the chaos too. If it's not chaotic, it's not really, I kind of know what I'm going there,
There's fun in the chaos.
There's so much fun in the chaos. I feel like there's like a catharsis that could be found from that. And I love it when people do that in their live sets. So yeah. All right. Sweet. Well, if you guys are listening right now, and go see Rumpus live, because that's going to be a good time. I can tell already. I want to confirm really quickly. You have a hybrid setup with a Roland drum kit.
Yes. Yeah. I have a couple different setups that I use, but yeah. Yeah.
Is that like the main one?
Yeah. So I have, for my big shows, and when I need the space, I need the right environment for it, but I actually play a full live drum kit. It is an electronic kit, but it's like a hybrid acoustic electronic. So if you looked at it, you would assume everything looks acoustic. It's full drum shells. It's like a full kit, but the triggers are actually electronic. So I don't need it mic'd. And when I hit it, it actually comes through the sound system. And
That's
I'm able
so cool.
to mix it with the music, rather than, having like the music coming out of the speakers and then the drums coming here and then trying to mic that all, because that becomes a bit of a nightmare sometimes for venues where they're used to having electronic acts, or if you're at a festival and they have DJs all day, and then you show up and you're like, I have a drum kit.
Yeah.
Some guys get pretty stressed sometimes right away, and they're like, oh man. And also changeovers, when you're changing over in a band, it's normal for the band to stop. There's a 15, 20-minute break, and then they reset up and then the next one comes on or whatever. But it doesn't work like that in the DJ world. It's just like one song, usually the DJ mixes into the one before him and the music never stops. So that can be tricky too with the live setup, trying to make that smooth transition from the artist before me and make it quick. And, you don't want people to be like, oh, there's no music here, I'm going to like leave the stage and go to another one. So, but I use the full drum kit at some of my big shows, but the smaller ones, and like club shows and stuff like that, I actually have a drum pad, and that's a lot easier to use when I can just plug it into the DJ mixer. I can mix it myself quick. It's great for smaller festivals because I don't get a sound check at festivals. And, you definitely need like a sound check with the big drum kit. So that's like my smaller setup, and I still play on that. It's just about this big, and it's called the Roland SPD SX.
Okay.
And drum pad. So it's like a scaled back version. It still gives you some drumming entertainment, but it's not at the same level as going on a full kit.
That's so cool. And I would love to see what that looks like. I'm still learning a little bit about the instruments and everything that goes on, but your setup sounds so different and so unique. And that's really cool. I was going to ask a little bit about the challenges, but it seems like you kind of covered it. But like, what would you say is the most challenging aspect of having a setup like that?
Just like always, you need space. Some clubs, the DJ booth's so small, there's hardly any space for anything in there besides a couple of CDJs and a mixer. You need to make sure you have like good monitors to hear what you're doing, because now you're drumming over top of perfectly quantized music, because house music is like, it's exactly like the kicks and the clap stuff, they're exactly the same every time. But when you play live, and as a drummer, even if you're the best drummer in the world, you don't play exactly the same. Your beat swings and your timing swings, and you usually don't really notice it when you're listening to a live band, because that's the beat you're hearing and the band's kind of following them. But when I'm playing over electronic music, I have to really, really try to be as tight as I possibly can, because even like a slight variation or sway off of the beat is noticeable if I'm like playing along. Now, during my sets, I add a lot of extra stuff in that's meant to be like, outside of the regular beat of the song, and like add different fills and different patterns and elements to the track that weren't originally there. But sometimes, like on my own tracks, sometimes I just have a mix version where the drums are quieter in the mix, and I play that live, and I just play the whole thing like I wrote it in Ableton, but I play it live. And again, that can be a little bit tricky trying to play it perfectly on the beat all the time. But yeah, but that, and then just dealing with sound checks, because often you don't get one, or you only get like a 30-second one. And just finding, going and dealing with sound techs that are normally dealing with DJs and stuff, that it can get a little tricky when there's live instruments involved.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty interesting setup, like I was saying. But do you ever have to like rehearse and stuff whenever you're working on a live set and stuff, and with your drums and all that, or you got it kind of figured out?
Yeah, I definitely, especially with the full live kit, I make sure to rehearse quite a bit, and I try and always switch the shows up too. With the live kit, I might play a few of the same tracks, but the next show I want to add something new in. So I'm always trying to like find new variations, new songs I can switch up and change out. And so there's definitely a lot of prep involved in practice, and just to be able to make sure if anything goes wrong too, say I can't hear the monitors or something's not working well, that I am like quite well prepared, and I've basically memorized everything in my head that I need to. There's this good quote that I like from this book, Never Split the Difference. And the guy says, when the pressure's on, you don't rise to the occasion, but you fall to the highest level of preparation.
Yeah.
And I always like to think that, like, if I'm really well prepared and things go wrong up there, when I'm playing my instrument, whatever I prepared for that's as bad as it's going to get, probably, as
Right.
long as parents. So.
Yeah, and if you don't act like you made a mistake, most people won't even notice. That's something I also figured out. So,
It's, that is definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing that I think this comes from my band background and my punk rock upbringing is sometimes, like, if I make mistakes on stage, I just like own it. Sometimes I'll get
Yeah.
up and I'll just be like, "Well, that wasn't supposed to happen." Haha, like, move on. Everyone has a laugh, and it's, and I don't stress about it too much. Especially when you're involving live instruments and you're moving back and forth and doing all these things on stage, like, you kind of got to expect that it's not going to be perfect, all the
Mm-hmm.
time. I'm okay with that because it's people then know, they're like, it's real, it's raw, um, and it's just like organic, I guess. And in all that comes some mistakes, and stuff, and imperfections, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
part of it in my experience. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that. That was really insightful. And there's a vulnerability in that too, as well as like being like, yeah, I make mistakes and stuff like that.
I also find with mistakes in sets and things like that, and unless you have a track record, I know there's artists that have a track record of just train wrecking all the time, or they go up and they get too drunk and they just play like a horrible set, and that stuff people remember. But if you're playing like a 90-minute set and you make one or two little mistakes, like, no one remembers. You know what I mean? They're like,
Right.
"Oh, the set was great. I had a good time. Overall, it was really good." People don't remember that stuff. If you go up and you're blacked out and your entire set is like, ends up like Zoo and Dead Mouse at
Yeah.
Coachella, like, people are gonna remember that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I feel like as long as you're not doing that kind of stuff, it's just part of it, and I think
Yeah.
people did it too, because all this like sync pre-made set, like, debate that people are always talking about, and it just shows also that, like, you're actually up there,
Mm-hmm.
performing and playing and putting on a proper show,
Yeah, and it also kind of like shows that level of authenticity, like I was saying, as well as leveling that crowd to artist interaction as well. It helps
yeah,
you feel a little bit more like, I don't know. There's a point where you're definitely like larger than life, and I think that there's always a element of that. But whenever, like I was saying, musicians kind of even that out a little bit, it's just really cool and it's really special. So,
yeah,
even something like making mistakes could probably add to that.
totally.
Yeah. Similarly, how do you decide when to lean into live drumming during a set versus letting the track ride? Is it planned or intuitive in the moment?
Um, Generally, the tracks, especially on, like, when I have a full drum kit, it's planned, it's placed strategically throughout the set. What I try and do is, I actually try to look at how long my set is and then divide it into 10-minute segments. This isn't exact, but
Mm-hmm.
this is just kind of how, like, I break down when I look at a set. I try to make sure maybe like every 10 minutes during my show, I move over and I get on the drums and I do something on the drum kit. So I space it out so I'm not like just playing a bunch of songs and then there's, half an hour of nothing. But also I want it to feel like exciting, for the crowd, and
Mm,
like it's special. So I don't want to be doing it too often either, or for
okay.
too long. So I always try and, like, inject it into my sets in the moments I feel it's going to have the most impact, and space it out. And but generally it's planned, but also sometimes I go off the plan depending on what the vibe is or what I'm feeling. Maybe I just am like, hey, this is really working right now. I want to throw in an extra couple tracks, and I might jump on and do something I wasn't planning.
Mm,
Or it could go the other way, and maybe the energy just isn't there. It doesn't feel right, and people aren't really resonating with the drum kit. Say, for example, I was playing a set and it was early in the afternoon, and there was kind of like no one had come out at that point, or I don't know. say it started raining and the crowd had all left and there's like a few people standing around the ring, maybe it's just like not the vibe, because it's definitely like quite a high energy thing. And it's not put into like a high energy moment in the set, then it might not work. So sometimes I'll just go the other way and decide, you know what, I'm just going to let this one ride, and I'm not going to go over to the drums.
Okay.
But to answer your question, generally it's planned out when I'm going to do it, and rehearsed, and I don't just kind of do it randomly.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. Going into your new music, you describe Body Movin and Party Favors as very different tracks that serve different moments. How do you curate emotional arcs in your sets when you have such a wide palette of sound and different directions that you go live or when you're producing?
When I'm putting together sets, basically I kind of like to come up with somewhat of a roadmap for what I want to do. And then when I get there, I will kind of get going on that path, and then I'll feel which direction I want to go with it. But the thing I really like to do, and I know a lot of people that they do enjoy about my sets, is that it's not the same the whole time. I mean, generally it's still a lot of house music that I'm playing, but I move through different genres of it. I might start with more like fun, upbeat, techie house, tech house, and then I'll move into some bass house, and then maybe get into like a Latin section of the set, and then maybe after that, that's when I duck down into some bass music or some drum and bass for a bit, to just sort of like break up the 4 to the floor for a bit, and then I'll bring it back, and then I'll go I might go into like something deeper, more progressive stuff. Maybe near the end might throw in a little bit of techno, and and then maybe close it out with some really nice like melodic music. It's really hard to do that, to be honest, in an hour set. So I feel like if I'm doing an hour set and I'm trying to go through all that stuff, it just feels very disconnected. So I may not try and explore as many genres in that amount of time. So my best kind of sets that are like a nice roller coaster of music would be like 90-minute sets, or even lately I've done a couple 2-hour sets.
Wow.
And it's been really fun because I don't have to rush into the next genre. I can really transition nicely into the next style I'm going to play. But I just enjoy taking people on a ride, because that's what I like when I listen to music. I don't want to listen to just like a full set of bass house music, I like bass house, and I make some bass house, but I don't want to listen to that for the whole time. I want to go on a journey, and that's what I try and do with my sets, and give people the experience of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really cool that you do that, and I think that makes your live sets pretty unique. But how do you include that in your production as well? I know you said you like making bass house, but you don't always make bass house. But could you tell me a little bit more about that?
So my production basically is, the last little while, I kind of like, when I started out, I was kind of making funky like funky house, funky tech house. And I think that was a lot of Shambhala, Western Canadian sounds that were influencing me at that time. And then I sort of moved out of that and started making more just like clubby tech house and bass house. And I really love that style still, but I find sometimes it doesn't have a large shelf life. And I've been inspired the last couple years by a little more melodic house, some progressive. My partner is actually a techno DJ. So she's introduced me to a lot of really great techno music. And I think just all these different influences coming in, like I want to bring it to my to my sound, but also I don't want to scare off my fans by people that started listening to me when I was making funky, funky like house music, and now I'm making just like super hard techno.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't swing too far outside of the realm. But what I've been doing lately is basically every second song I write has been a little more melodic, emotional, a little more like progressive vibes, but still kind of within the tech house realm. And then all the other ones, I'm still just writing a lot of like clubby tech and bass house music.
Mm.
So, you know, because like sometimes that melodic stuff doesn't work in the nightclub. It works like at a festival and at certain moments, or maybe at the end of your set, but it's a little harder to play in the middle of your set at a nightclub where people are just there and they just want to like party and like jump up and down, you know?
Right.
So that's nice to have like a wide palette. And yeah, I don't like to put myself in a box too much either, and just say, well, this is exactly the kind of music I'm making, and you're always going to hear the same style of song with the same drums and the same elements. You know, that works for some artists, and some people like to have a sound where as soon as you hear that track, you're like, I know that this is this artist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really go for that approach. I like
Okay.
to be a little more eclectic with my sound and bend outside the boundaries of what I normally do, especially with collabs and stuff like that. It's really fun to just like lean more into the direction of that person or that person when we're collabing. So
Yeah, it's been really interesting to dive into your music and all the different sounds that you've gone and explored into. So yeah, I've really liked what you've come out with so far, especially with your new, is it an EP?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, especially with your new EP with Body Movin and Party Favors. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that those were really fun. And yeah,
Thanks.
could you describe the creative process behind the EP and how you feel about that whole process now that the songs are out?
Yeah, for sure. I didn't originally make it as an EP. They were just two separate songs, and then the label said, "Hey, what do you think of putting these together?"
Mm.
These two. I sent them a bunch of demos, and they said, "What if we put these two together on an EP?" And my first thought was, "Oh, those are like really quite different songs from one another."
Yeah.
But then I thought, "Oh, that's actually perfect because I feel like that represents my music well by saying, hey, here's two tracks. One is one style and one's like totally different, you know." Um, Body Movin was, I played a show in a place in Kelowna, BC, and that's where my friend Stun is from, who's another awesome producer. And I was like, I'm just going to stay an extra day. Let's jump in the studio. We've had other tracks before in the past together. And so I stayed, and we got in the studio the next day after my show. And I was really, that song was kind of inspired by like a Black V-neck, some of their tunes.
Okay.
We wanted something that was like kind of big chunky bass and had like sort of Latin-y drums in it. And just was like a fun tune that was like kind of ravey but and like clubby.
Mm.
And so yeah, we made that one, and we cranked that tune out in I think like maybe like 4 hours or something. And then, but I mean, we finished it up a little after that. But
Wow.
so yeah, and then Party Favors I made because I was really into. I just went through this like 6 month phase where I was really loving acid house, and I was just playing a lot of acid house in my sets. Like I would probably play like 2 or 3 or 4 songs during my sets of that style. And I'm like, whenever I'm playing something a lot, and this is the same with the Black V-neck thing, when I'm playing a certain style a lot and I really enjoy it, that's always inspires me. I'm like, hey, why don't I make my own version of a track
Right.
like that, my own interpretation of it? So I wanted just like a fun acid house tune that was like high energy, made for peak time. And yeah, that's how that one came to be.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, thanks for sharing that.
The just kind of back to what I was saying earlier about curating different like things in my sets and different vibes, having different styles of music um, that I make, it keeps me so I can play, like I can play an earlier set, you
Mm.
know, and I can still play some of my own music, or I can play a later set, because all my songs don't necessarily fit into all my sets. Some of them are too aggressive. Some of them are too deep. Some of them are too, maybe just too like groovy, and it needs something more high energy. So it's nice to have like a palette of music to pick from where I'm still able to play my tracks. For example, in September, I'm playing with the Sponges at Cervantes Ballroom in Denver.
Okay.
I'm going to be playing like the earlier slot for that show. And a lot of my stuff is like pretty peak time, but it's nice I don't want to just go and play a set that's like not my own music, because I don't have, some chiller stuff. So it's nice to have some of that stuff to pick from of my own songs, some like chiller music as well. But.
Yeah. Reading the crowd, picking the vibe. Yeah. Pretty cool. Tell me a little bit about the album art and the inspo behind that.
So I got the art from the label, and I just felt it didn't really express when I wrote the song, and like the lyrics for the song and what I envisioned in my mind. So I just said to the label, hey, would it be cool if I did the art for this one? Because I just sort of like have something in mind that represents the song. And they were like, absolutely. And they were really, it was with Uprise, and they were really cool about it. And they're like, totally, and they actually, the last release I did with them, we did our own art as well. Kaztech and I put out a track, and we wanted it to be like AI, like not like made by AI, but we wanted it to feel like a robot that was like becoming conscious and like wanting to know what love was and experience love. So we wanted it to be like a lot of robotic, and like it was like a robot with like a heart in its head and trying to understand what love is. Sorry, I got off track, but back to Body Movin. So for this one, the way the lyrics to the song are and what I pictured is like, what is Body Movin about? What do I think about when I listen to that song? And it brings me back to, have you seen the Substance, the movie?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I don't watch very many movies though, but I'm
gonna try to change that.
It's a really crazy show that came out like, I don't know, maybe like 6 months ago or something. But it's kind of was like designed after the idea behind that, because there's this girl in it named Sue, and she is on this TV show, and it's like a retro kind of like 80s 90s aerobic show, and she's always like, all right, like time to pump it up. And I envisioned sort of like that came to mind when we did the album art. So I thought I want some retro like exercise aerobics instructor, and with like that looks like what you used to see on TV back when you're a little kid growing up, and would be like playing in the background. They'd have these people there, and they'd have like 3 people on each side of them, all in like headbands and little like fluorescent shorts and wristbands and everything. So that was kind of the vibe I wanted for it, and I was able to put the art together based on that, and I felt like represented the vibe of the Tuna Bunch Body Movin.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense when you said that. Is it Gene Simmons that did that too? Am I getting the guy's name right?
Like from Kiss?
Nope, definitely not. Who is it that I'm thinking of that did the workout videos with the headband and stuff?
Richard Simmons.
Richard Simmons. Okay, I got one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the vibe I was going for, and with the kind of direction I went with the artwork, I think it was really influenced by that movie, The Substance, and Sue in it. And she was just like, it's cool the way she does it. And she's like really cute and like sexy. And she's like, we're going to pump it up. And so anyways, that's kind of where the idea for the artwork came from.
Yeah, that's really fun. That's cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that about the album art, because it is really cool to hear that collaborative process between the artist and the label whenever they're creating the album art together. Yeah. So that's really cool. I think that adds a lot to the EP as well. So you're returning to festivals like Shambhala and Burning Man again. How have these community-based festivals shaped you as an artist?
I think those kind of festivals they really make me appreciate like coming up as an artist and building a fan base, just being a part of the community and being present, and getting to know people in those communities, even before I was making music or before people were listening to my music, and enabled me to be able to have a career and a fan base and tour around. But before, I had a lot of listeners on Spotify and stuff like that, which is, I think, sometimes difficult for people because, it's the question, what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Do you have a bunch of fans and then they see you and they come to your shows, so then they start listening to your music and you get more followers like that? Or do you get a bunch of people listening to your music and then they become fans and then they come out to shows? Well, for me, those festivals gave me the opportunity to be a part of the community. So I actually got to build a fan base for people that had seen my live shows and were able to experience through that, and then became, listeners of my music. And I think that's still, for me today, something that's really important, especially with the live instruments and all that, because I'm trying to do something different. And I think once people actually get to experience a live show, they see that. So festivals like Shambhala and just I just love the underground festivals. I don't know, there's something special about them. They don't feel really corporate, and they're not just all about the money. They're really curating vibes and spaces for people that are really memorable. And so they've definitely played an important role in where I've come as an artist. And also Shambhala is just one of those festivals that, especially for Canada, or everyone, some artists all across the world, it's a bucket list festival to play. And I'm grateful to be playing every year. And Burning Man, I've met a ton of awesome people there and got a really cool experiences at that festival.
Yeah, I keep hearing that Shambhala is just one of the best festivals to go to, especially if you're just trying to have that intimate experience and connect with people. And then also it's on the water too, right? So you go swimming and stuff like that.
River, they own the land. And the thing that's really cool about it, and why, the stages there are just absolutely incredible. And part of the reason is they own the land and the stages are permanent. So they just, as soon as the festival's done, the whole next year, they just build them bigger and bigger and add more stuff and make them cooler and upgrade them. And whereas a lot of other festivals, they have 1 week to go in, set up the stage, then they got to tear it down and it's gone, and they don't own the land. And so they have a lot more restrictions for what they can do. But Shambhala, they can do whatever they want. It's their own land. And there's a beautiful river that runs through it. It's in the mountains. There's trees everywhere. On the stages, there's all these paths through the forest, and then you just come out and you're at the next stage. And definitely world-class stages.
That's cool.
And they're very interactive too, and you can hang out on them. A lot of stages are built. For example, Pagoda is an actual giant house. So
that's so cool.
You walk out on stage and you're standing basically on the balcony sort of the house. But as soon as you go back into the house, there's couches, there's a place to hang out, there's a bar. It's just packed with people, packed with all the artists. And it's just a really good community. All the stages are designed for that. So that big backstage is a complete hangout, or on stage for artists and artist guests and people involved in the festival. So it's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. I have been wanting to go to Shambhala for so long. I've heard so many good things about that.
Yeah, you need to get there.
I know. I need to get over there, and I need to get over there soon. I got to update my passport.
I just did that last week.
Yeah?
Just got a new one, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope everything went smoothly and everything there.
Yeah, all good.
Sweet, you're all good to go. That's awesome. Well, to wrap things up, what else do you have planned next, and how can we support you?
I just took a month off. I'm taking basically from now until mid-June off. Just need to take a break before summer hits. And I just got back from Australia a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to be doing that. And then straight in end of June, we start festival season. And I'm basically all the way through festival season. I got a whole bunch of different places I'm playing all over till basically middle of September, and then late September I head back to Australia again for
Wow.
tour for about a month there, and then it's going to be back to the tour back in Canada and the States for festival season, or sorry, for club season.
Yeah.
And yeah, we do like there's a big market for the winter ski towns up here. We do a lot of touring in those places because they all have their own little parties going on, and so yeah, it's going to be a busy year coming up. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I mean, to support me, I'd love for people to go check me out on Spotify or wherever, just under Rumpus, RUMPUS, and come out to a show sometime and check it out. Or you can follow me on my socials at It's Rumpus.
Perfect. Yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing that. And I will have links in the description for anybody who wants to take a look at those, check those out, and stream your music.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah. Anything else you want to share?
No, I think that's about it. I appreciate you having me on today. This is awesome chatting with you. So.
Yeah, it was really awesome to meet you and to chat with you for a little bit. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll hopefully see you live soon.
Oh yeah. Okay, cheers.
Cool. Yeah, have a good one.